So good day, everyone. We want to welcome you today and thank you for joining us. So welcome you today to our webinar on bridging physical and digital, exploring interactive digital solutions for sport for all. My name is Osazemen Aghedo. I'm a project manager here at TAFISA, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. I'm very confident that you'll be able to enjoy today's program as it has been carefully curated with a diverse set of speakers and panelists, and also case study presentation, just to offer you different perspectives on our topic of discussion today. So before we go any further, we just want you to know or briefly advise you that this webinar is recorded and it will be posted on our TAFISA YouTube page and our TAFISA website. All your microphones are being muted by default to ensure a smooth running of the webinar, and we ask you to drop any messages, comments, questions using the chat box and the Q&A function on Zoom. Finally, I want to encourage everybody to please share your name, the name of your organization, and the country you're joining us from in the chat box, so we know who is with us today and from where you're joining us. Please just drop that in the chat box, your name, the name of your organization, and the country you're joining us from. I see a lot of comments already. Okay, got a message that our comment box is not open yet. So we're going to activate the comment box in a minute. Well, as we do that, we'll start off the webinar with our in-post speaker. So the first thing we have on our agenda is an in-post presentation, and I'll go ahead to introduce our speaker, our in-post speaker for today. For our in-post, we have Lucy Mills, and she is the founder and chief catalyst at Ready Sports Global, which is a leading technology, strategy, training, and implementation service for sport federations, club, NGOs, and brands. Lucy founded Ready in 2022 to bridge the gap between sport and fast-moving technology. And she has trained over 3,000 sport professionals in Web3 and AI, hosted networking events across Europe, and partnered with global sport and technical leaders on strategy and advisory services, which is setting the foundation for most companies today. Prior to founding Ready, Lucy worked 15 plus years in the global football and social impact space. She designed and led programs in 30 plus countries, including FC Barcelona Foundation and the 2010 FIFA World Cup Social Legacy. She is also a professor of sports and innovation at Emelon Business School and was honored with the 2023 Everything in Sports Contribution to Education in Women's Sports. So thank you for joining us, Lucy. I'll go ahead and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Osazemen. Okay, amazing. It's so fantastic to be here and to see so many people tuning in live for this session. Yeah, it's a real honor to open up the floor for this session around bridging physical and digital, exploring interactive digital solutions for sport for all. For the next 10 minutes, what you can expect from this impulse. I'll follow on from the introduction and talk a little bit more about the work that we're doing at Ready Sport Global, as we're formally registered. I'll set the context as to for us to think about why it's important, so why digital matters when it comes to sport for all. And then thirdly, I'll draw attention to some really great examples of organizations that we've been working with or that we're familiar with, and then finish with some of the considerations and learnings and challenges that we're seeing, we're facing, and we're trying to overcome. So, as mentioned, I founded Ready in 2022, straight off the back of having worked at FC Barcelona within the foundation and international programs. I'm in Barcelona today. It's where the company is headquartered. And we started with this mission to get sport ready for the future, hence the name. And we had our foundations as an educational and training initiative, which was really trying to demystify and bring the parts of the global sports ecosystem that are maybe less familiar with digital transformation and technology topics.
See?
Yes?
Sorry to interrupt you, but
Yes.
we can't see your presentation, so I've gone ahead to start sharing. So can you just prompt me when you want me to change the slide? We're currently
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, we were having a few issues, ironically, before. So yes, thank you. So yeah, next slide. And the following slide. Yeah, so we started as an educational initiative. We were demystifying and talking about and unearthing topics around technologies and emerging technologies, really because we at the time we felt that we were experiencing and living rapid technological change, and we within the sports industry, particularly in women's sport, in grassroots sport, in sport for development, wanted to make sure that we were being ready for this technological change. So on the next slide there, we evolved as an organizational as an educational initiative, have delivered trainings and professional development with industry professionals across different sports, different levels, from grassroots sports to elite level, in many countries. So we have a really good understanding of where the sports industry and sport for development industry is at when it comes to digital transformation and topics, particularly AI, which is a big topic today. And following on from the education and training initiatives, we also deliver design and deliver projects, and we're implementing technological solutions as well. So that's just a little bit about us. So we come with a great understanding of where sport for all is particularly at when it comes to digital transformation and digital matters. So why, next slide, why should we be concerned with digital matters? I think first of all, so I come from I was a player, a coach, a manager. I've been on a board, I've volunteered, I've done research. I've been in and around sport for a long time. So it's funny that when we think about sport, we often think about people, about connection, about emotion, about human experiences, and so the kind of focus on technology and digital transformation sometimes feels very far from those human experiences. But the way that we've been viewing the role of technology in sport for all in this case is really as an enabler, if and when designed well and utilized well. So we can think about digital in terms of overcoming barriers to access, financial, geographical, social. We can think about the role of technology now in enabling greater inclusion in different ways. We can think about the role of technology in meeting people where they are. So acknowledging that most of us are with our phones and in digital spaces and communities in many aspects of our lives. And so it would make sense that we are also, as a Sport for All and sports organizations, thinking about our work in these spaces as well. in light of COVID-19, of course, there was an increasing conversation around the role of digital in overcoming sustainability issues, and instead of building and adding new physical infrastructure, we could optimize using digital infrastructure. And then particularly, so we do a lot of work with artificial intelligence, and so when you think about all the characteristics and possibilities that AI, and particularly Gen AI, present to us now, there's a lot more opportunity to personalize the experience, and to whether that's in the training content, in the communication content, in how we're engaging with our communities and our fans and so on. So there's lots of reasons why digital matters, and we are seeing the role of technology play out in lots of really exciting ways that form this digital physical hybrid that we'll dive more into today. So on the next slide, I want to shine a light on some great initiatives that are happening within the Olympism 365 Innovation Hub. So this is an innovation hub that is supported and catalyzed by the International Olympic Committee's Olympism 365 area. There are 74 innovators that are being supported right now through the Innovation Hub, and not just technological innovation, so social innovation and innovative ideas addressing unmet needs within the sports industry being tested, being scaled through the hub. But there are some that are using technology, and I just want to give them a shout out today. Girls First Initiative in Tanzania. So they have a lot of in-person leadership, mentorship initiatives with girls and women. They've complemented that. They've reinforced the work that they're doing through their online platform. Sports Beyond Limit Mindset in Kenya, for example, they are using technologies to create adapted tools that people with disabilities can then be included in their programs. E-Museum of Sport, they really take a hybrid approach in Brazil, where they have a touring truck with headsets and immersive experiences that brings people into a virtual museum. At the same time, they have these physical activations as well. So they've really they get millions of reach in their virtual spaces, and then hundreds of thousands of reach in their in-person spaces. Similar thing with Community Innovation Hub in Nigeria. They are creating games and say similar to like the gaming and esports and so on, but the content of the games is around sustainable development goals and other social topics, and related to sport as well. So it's curious that they're actually gaming digital first as a platform, as a springboard into societal matters and sports participation. So in the next slide, just some reflections and learnings and considerations. So as I say, we've worked with thousands of sport industry professionals in different countries, different sports, when it comes to digital transformation, AI adoption, emerging technologies like blockchain. And I think we're at a really pivotal moment. And I think, first of all, affordability, I think, is in our favor as Sport for All. So we are seeing now that otherwise really expensive and scientific and forecasting and processing data and all of these different things are becoming much more accessible, much more affordable. they're no longer just within the big leagues and the professional sports organizations that have resources. So that's a consideration that we need to start appreciating. Secondly, as I said at the beginning, when you think about sport as this human and emotional connection experience, we see time again in the sports technology space that there are so many tools and startups, and it's really, there's a lot of technologies that are being built, but ultimately we as design thinkers, as social innovators, I think in sport for all space we do this really well. We think about what the real problem is, and we can work and leverage technology as and when is needed, and really thinking about the experiences of people in our programs first, and what role technology has to play. So in the case of the previous examples in Brazil, in Nigeria, in Kenya, for example, working with people with disabilities, or working with young people who have never had the opportunity to be in formal sports teams, they're using technology in ways that are overcoming problems around access and so on. So I think the benefit of the sport for all space is that we see that there's an incredible amount of thinking of putting people at the center, and so making sure that digital innovation serves people. Of course, with that said, we're still facing inequities in terms of access, so with and without devices, connectivity, digital literacy. We have to be mindful of those things when we're working in this space as well. The digital literacy aspect. So and this is something that we work a lot on at Ready. So the readiness and the competency of organizations, both as individual practitioners, but also as organizations, having a strategy and guiding teams as to responsible use of technology, and particularly now with AI technologies. This is hit and miss still. So particularly now with when we think about responsible AI adoption, sports professionals, sports organizations, sports leaderships should be kind of having a bit of a 360 review, looking around at what they've got, looking within the teams of who's already using tools and not, and what are our existing systems like, and having that bit of assessment and readiness, and that process, we see that as being really, really useful to help organizations in the long term. And that links to the final point around the fact that, of course, when we're using different platforms and tools, it's important to ensure that we know what the legal and ethical and privacy concerns or risks, and try to mitigate those, and try to set good guidelines and good processes as well. So it's a space, I think, right now which there's rapid technological changes happening. It's very difficult to keep up, and there's new regulation being put in, and then new upgrades in technologies coming in. And so through all of that, there's a lot that sport for all organizations have to unpack. But I think ultimately, just to come to a conclusion here, we're really excited by the possibility to think about technology as a competitive advantage for sport for all, and there's ways to simplify, to be strategic, to think about people first, and to make sure that we are being responsible with how we're using technology. So I encourage you to check out the Olympus 365 Innovation Hub. There's lots of really great examples of solutions that are at this intersection of digital and physical. Yeah, I hope that's provided a good context, and we're looking forward to today's session with our fellow speakers and panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lucy. That was very insightful, and I thank you for a beautiful presentation and a very insightful one. I think some of the parts you listed in the key considerations, those are a lot of parts that are going to be highlighted in our discussions today. In our panel discussions, we're going to go deeper. We're going to talk more on this area that you highlighted. So thank you so much for that. I just want to say, if you have any questions from Lucy's session or in the course of the webinar, please just drop it in the Q&A box and we'll respond to it later on. So now we'll go into our interactive break, which is the next agenda. With the interactive break, I think the link to join Mentimeter has already been shared in the chat box. And it's an opportunity for you to respond to some questions, and we already get your view on the topic of discussion today. So I'll go ahead and just share my screen for Mentimeter. You can also use the QR code to just join. Okay, I can see some people have joined already. So I'll wait a few more minutes for you to join. So you can use the code, you can use the QR code, and you can also use the link that have been shared in the chat box. Yes, okay, I see a lot of people. Yes, welcome. Yes, okay, so let's go to our first Mentimeter question. And see. Okay. So the first question, has your organization implemented any digital sports solution to promote physical activity? Have you implemented in the past, or are you currently implementing any digital sports solution to promote physical activity? Okay. See a large percentage leaning towards the yes. Okay. Okay, no, now it's tied between yes and no. Okay. Please note there's no right or wrong answers. This is also very important for just to get some information, so data, and better understand how to tailor today's discussion. Okay, so I'll move to the next question. So when you think of digital sports, digital solutions in sports, what's the first word that comes to mind? So this is an open question. You can just drop any one. What's the first word that comes to mind? Innovation, audience, okay. Interactive, artificial intelligence, okay. AI, internet, automation, okay. Yeah, I see AR, VR. I see easy, I see difficult, I see accessibility, which is a recurring theme so far this morning. I see interactive, engagement. Okay. Thank you so much. Precision, okay. Then I'll move to the last question that we have for this segment, which is, which population group do you think could benefit most from digital solution in sports? Okay, we see everyone, children, youth, people with disabilities, older adults, and everyone. Okay. Thank you so much for your responses. I will stop sharing now, and We'll move next to the next. We'll move next to the next agenda we have on our program, which is a panel discussion. We have panelists from diverse background. I'll go ahead and introduce them, and we'll go straight to the panel discussion. So firstly, we have Lucy Mills, which I already introduced. She's going to be a part or one of our panelists today. Secondly, we'll have Dion Bulkens. Dion Bulkens is an esports, gaming, and gamification specialist at the Knowledge Center for Sport and Physical Activity. By taking an objective view of trends in the field, he equips policymakers, researchers, and sport and physical activity professionals with practical insight and tools. He has also co-authored Dutch publications such as the e-book Esports and the Knowledge Agenda Esports, Performance Improvement. He has also organized multiple times a big Dutch knowledge event about esports, gaming, and gamification. He has also authored a lot of papers in this area. So welcome, Dion. Thank you for joining us today. Yes. And I will introduce our next panelist. We have Eckehard Fozzy. Moritz is the director of the Innovationsmanufaktur in Germany. Welcome, Fozzy.
Hi.
Yes. And I think one of our panelists currently is running late or we are unable to reach him, but we'll go ahead with our panel discussion for today. And if you have any question, please don't forget to just drop them in the Q&A box. So our first question today, I'll start with an icebreaker question for all our panelists. Maybe we start with the order of Lucy going first. Lucy, I know you just mentioned this probably briefly in your presentation, but if you were to explain to someone why digital tools and solution in sport matters for the future in physical activity participation, what is one key point you want them to understand?
So I'd be a little bit provocative. I say it's 2025, and I would also say that that technology and AI are here to stay, and we can use them as our superpower. And we need to be working with these technologies to support our physical activity and sport for all goals, as opposed to rejecting them, because we're going to lose people along the way if we do.
Okay, thank you for that, Lucy. And Dion, the same question. Did you get the question, or you want me to go again? I can repeat it.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I understand. Thank you for having me on this webinar. Which I think is most important. I think digital technologies offer great opportunities for everyone with purposes for physical activity and also sports. I think they can make the sport more accessible, to offer varieties of new sports participation tools. Also motivate, stimulate, monitor also sport performances. So I think there's a big opportunities for everyone. But there is also another side. There are a lot of digital solutions nowadays, but how can we really implement them in practice? That's pretty difficult in all areas of sports or physical activity. So that's where we need more, I think, more research, but also more sharing of experiences together.
Okay, thank you, Dion. And Fozzy, the same question. If you had to explain to someone why digital tools and solutions in sport matter for the future of physical activity participation, what is one key point you want them to understand?
Yes, thanks for the question. And let me just add a few words about my background so that people understand why I'm saying what I will be saying. Because what we've been doing from Innovationsmanufaktur with TAFISA is establishing the Joy of Movement Pioneers initiative. so that meaning that it is not enough to bring people to sport, but to bring joy of movement to the people. And that is what we are still pursuing. And we had a seminar on this, and we are now organizing and initiating the physical esport hub. So to bridge between gaming and sport. And we had also for 7 years been masterminding the German Innovation of Elite Sport. Great to hear about Olympism 365 innovation hub, that this exists, because the German government decided to do away with it. We don't need so much innovation. But anyway, so coming to the question, my point is, what I didn't read is motivation. I think the big opportunity is to use digital solutions to create a new motivation of for participation in physical activities, with the immersion, with the gamification, with the new input-output devices, offering a range of opportunities to make it attractive for people to get moving.
Thank you. I think that's something we really didn't mention, in motivation, and I think that's very important. Thanks so much, Fozzy, for that response. And let's go to the same order. Lucy, I think my first question will be directed to you. And so how can Sport for All harness the potential of digital sports solution in advancing its mission and also ensuring it promotes values such as inclusion and innovation?
Yeah, thanks. And thanks, everyone. So I think I would probably start with an organizational focus. So Sport for All, right? You might be a federation, you might be an NGO, association, different types of organizational structures, clubs. And I think there's two lenses through which we can look at this. The one is, what does a thriving organization look like in a digital AI era? So how we as an organization can be using AI and technologies to help with the work that we're doing. So that's the one lens. I think the second lens is then how what does using technology and AI look like in terms of furthering our organizational goals. So whether that's our business goals, our outreach goals, our programmatic goals. And your question about staying true to the values of and ultimately is Sport for All serving people. So in the former, so what does a thriving organization look like, right? So it might be that that there's an actual strategy in place. It might be that there are individuals within the organization who are upskilled and staying relevant and applying these tools in good ways. It might be that there's transparent communication and collaboration and ease of flow of information. It might be that technology is used to track progress or make decisions, or it might be that organizations have guidelines on what's appropriate and relevant. And I think every organization has its own distinct position when it comes to the role of technology in their organization. So we've worked with organizations that are really, really sensitive and cognizant of climate emissions and carbon and energy, and so their use of technology and AI looks quite different to maybe another organization that we've worked with, which is an organization with feminist principles, and so their use of technology looks very different because they will not work with certain companies and tools that don't adhere to feminist principles. I think there's no right or wrong when it comes to your organizational position. Ultimately, your digital transformation process, your AI roadmap whatever that looks like for your organization, reflects your identity, and it can reflect your identity and your values. But there are several things that really need to happen. You do need to have an executive position. You do need to acknowledge and identify who in your organization is already working with these things. You do need to have an audit of your tools and your infrastructure. You do need to have some level of unified staff upskilling. But what you'll see here is that the majority of things that I'm talking about that we know makes a good, thriving organization today is more about people and culture and much less about the tools and the systems. Just a really simple exercise. We know that probably everybody on this call session is using an LLM like ChatGPT, right? How many of us are using free versions? How many of us have an organization that have told us how to use it? How many have private models that we can feed into? How many have private models where groups of people are working together in different functions, right? Things like this, really relevant questions that organizations, Sport for All organizations should be really just taking stock and thinking about. So that's the one side on a thriving organization. And then secondly, what's the role in terms of furthering our organizational goals? And I get this might be more of the fun stuff, right? Like the headsets or the avatars or the immersive experiences or whatever. But until you have the house in order, it's quite difficult to then think about using technology in more creative and imaginative ways. And then for using those things when it's engaging with participants or communities or there are certain conditions and protocols that also should be in place when using these kinds of things. So I think for me, it's definitely it's a strategic question, and every organization's interpretation of how technology is used in their organization in a way that's true to values and priorities and so on is different.
Thank you so much, Lucy, for that very detailed response. And I think you mentioned a lot of themes in that, and one of them that stood out for me was capacity, especially for organization, how they can build capacity to be able to equip their staff or the team to be able to use this technology more. So more like you said, more like the people and the culture. And if I'm to move a bit from that, Fozzy, this question is directed to you. So how do we balance all these exciting possibilities? Some of them Lucy had shared, or on the top in technology, without the risk of widening the gap when it comes to the digital divide gap in sport participation.
I'm quite sure that the digital solutions offer an opportunity to, and that is the main point, as I said, to bridge to motivation, and that those solutions can be offered even with less resources in terms of space and funding than other, save the very simple, only a ball or something that you can use to play, but otherwise solutions that use digital or bridged gaming will be easier to provide for than, for example, a gym space. So we have discovered this in our workspace health initiatives, where you say, how can we bring joy of movement to the workspace? And then we figured that it's not really helpful to just give everybody a membership in a gym, because then only those who anyway like to go to a gym will have a cheaper membership. but that we need to bring joy of movement to the workplace space, as I said. And then we figured that if there's a couple of solutions like the plank pad or like the spirit overflow that Ando would have, like using the stationary bike to play computer games, and the Eurosport, the Japanese association, has some face match where you move and try to match facial expression. These are all low threshold opportunities and offers to move for a wide variety of purposes and a wide variety of people. And they don't need a lot of space, and they don't need a lot of other resources. So these offers being made public can be much easier and much more attractively be presented than other types of equipment. As I said, safe if it's just a ball or something. But otherwise, I think this is the resource problem and the access problem for many places is not really there, because these digital solutions to make people enjoy movement, they are not overly expensive and don't use overly lot of space, and are not overly intensive in terms of getting acquainted to it and using it.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that response, Fozzy. So some of them are, like you mentioned, the joy of movement, putting this in the workplace, how you can easily implement this, and not expensive measures that can be implemented by organizations or by teams. Oh, thank you for that. Dion, I want to direct this question to you, because I know you do a lot around gaming and gamification, esports. So how do the current trends in gaming and digital solutions in sport influence young people's willingness to engage in these sporting activities?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because you have one way to look at it as an opportunity to influence it in a positive way, to be more physically active. You can see that the world of sports, but also the world of gaming, is connecting more and more with each other. You see upcoming like extra games, virtual sports, but also esports. So that's more and more combined. That's a big opportunity also for the youth, which, for example, watches esports. But there is also another side, which maybe screen time can lead to less more physical active. So that could be a challenge. But last year we did a big research in the Netherlands, which said it seems it's not going to be that big of a problem. Only a few percentage of the people, also the young people, which have problems because of the screen time, to be less physical active. So if you play just a normal time on your screen, it's most of the time it's okay, and it's balanced with the rest of your life, also with being physical active and playing sports.
Okay, thank you, Dion. And I want to ask a follow-up question from based on your response. What are some of the challenges that organizations encounter when they're trying to integrate such? Because you've talked about how some people can be spending a lot of time, the screen time, and I also saw a question in the Q&A session about, is there a recommended time frame if you talk about screen time? So what do you think some of the challenges the organization face?
So if I check what's happening on a local level, in the Netherlands, so that's interesting for us. So a lot of sport organizations are implementing digital solutions for physical activity promotion. So that's one point of view they are working a lot with. So there are a few challenges in there to really implement these physical activity technologies. So I think one of them is most of the time a lot of technology are pretty expensive. And also, Lucy already mentioned it, also the digital literacy. So also the digital skills of professionals for using these technologies to be effective in practice. So that's one of these are two of the big concerns nowadays. So it's not always the technology what doesn't work, but sometimes it's the implementation what doesn't work. So it looks like the technology is not effective, but it's the technology and the human.
Okay, so more like building digital literacy, digital skills, and I think this relates to what Lucia said earlier about capacity of teams and staff working on these sporting programs. And Lucy, I want to direct the next question I have to you, bringing this more to a community level, because I know you've done some things with that, and you also mentioned in your presentation some examples of solutions that have been implemented in different parts of the world and in different communities. So what role do you think should the community input and co-design play when organizations are implementing these digital solutions in sports?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned in the introduction, one of the, I say the advantages that Sport for All has is that practitioners are often designing their programs and interventions that are centered on people and people's realities and people's needs and goals and so on. So there's definitely a participation aspect when it comes to developing a digital transformation process journey. It's kind of a never-ending journey, I guess, but if you're thinking about kind of getting going or getting started, often, so we've seen that there are a lot of great inputs from either staff, volunteers, coach, like people within organizations, because we'll be quite surprised, but like you'll have people who are really, really nerdy and like incredibly skilled at certain things in outside of their day-to-day, or maybe not related to sport. So there's definitely a consultation piece. If I think it needs like a dedicated period of time to really like sit down and understand. And so if I'm an association, organization, community organization, like taking that time to have that conversation and capture some insights and ideas from people, from like the people within our organization first, I think we'd be really, really surprised and pleasantly surprised too. So there's definitely, it's not like the CEO or the IT person or whoever you have being like, right, we're going to use this with no consultation and so on. Of course. And I think like Sport for All organizations like really get that because they're participatory and human centered by nature. So that's no different here. And then of course there's a following that iterative process, there's obviously feedback and like there's a feedback loop of no different to the monitoring type stuff that organizations will do, like getting feedback and iterating and feeding that into the digital transformation process of an organization. So I think that's like my main message here is like look within their organization or community or even participants, coaches and so on, because if it's structured, obviously don't just be like open, we want to transform our organization digitally, because that will raise expectations and so on. But if it's structured and with certain guiding questions, I think there'll be some really, really good inputs from across the team. And then it's also the types, when people are more interested in these things is when it's more closely linked to their work and their role and what they're doing. There's not much point in talking to a coach about improved invoice processing that maybe the admin finance person is more interested in, and vice versa, right? So again, it's like steer that consultation based on the role, the functions of each individual.
Thank you so much, Lucy. I think from what you said, one thing that really stood out for me is getting feedback. And I think most times people feel like this is not necessary because it's a digital solution. We can just move forward. But from what you've said, it's very important to consult with colleagues, get ideas, get insight, and also get feedback to ensure that what you're doing actually meets the needs of the community. Thank you so much, Lucy, for that. And Fozzy, I want to ask, direct this next question to you, still on the community aspect. I know you've done a lot of work in innovation and working with communities also. So in your experience, while working with communities, what is the community acceptance and adoption of digital solutions in sports? What has it been like? Like what works and what doesn't?
Mm-hmm. So, first of all, I like to react also on the remark of Dion, that this is expensive, and I think there's the innovation opportunity to solve this, that it does not need to be extensive. So if you have existing sport equipment and add on digital solution, it becomes more expensive. But if you think with the opportunities for digitalization, for example, we are working on an elastic textile band which has a sensor thread in it. So out of a sudden, you know the force with which you pull this thread, this band, and you can a lot of warm up and rehab exercises. You can then steer with that band and just need a little screen, a mobile phone or a tablet or so, and this band, and you have a gym with you. So the whole thing gets very, very cheap. And so this, I think it's an opportunity, and it's a challenge for innovators to create solutions that are accessible and cheap. Some examples for community acceptance was the one was that we compared, when I was saying the game that was steered by a stationary bicycle, and we had the comparison of the Swift peloton, so the regular sport-based virtual cycling, with this spirit overflow. So you're playing a game using the bicycle, and all of the young people who had not been racing a bicycle before, they were so much more attracted. So for me, the excitement was that you feel that even kids, where you think they usually they don't move, it's actually not, they exert themselves. So they were so immersed by the game that they were really sweating and going all in. And that was so exciting to see, because it's what we wanted, the effect we wanted to create, and that was not typically the case. So here again, we reach new types of people in new types of motivation, and what then the next step was to use it with inclusion. So we had people also participating, playing that game with something like a hand bike. And we just modulated the information so that they can play an equal level field. So this inclusiveness also across distances is one huge opportunity for bringing people from different countries and cultures and abilities together. And actually, to just conclude, my proposition now would be, and I would like to have a platform like this, that we establish something like a cross the border virtual physical gaming, also for sustaining peace. So if we had like Russian, Ukrainian, Palestine, Israeli young people playing together, having this physical excitement together virtually, I think this will create a base that we cannot become. We must not kill each other, because we are friends. We are sport buddies, so to say. So that's even, I see a huge opportunity for providing the basis for a more peaceful world. And there's so much more to do on this than just buying more weapons. But enough on this. But I think this is a huge opportunity as well.
Yeah, it is a huge opportunity. Thank you so much, Fozzy, for that response. And Dion, I have another question for you, and I think this is something that we have also received, we have also heard. It's pretty we've talked about a lot of positive, but it's also on the flip side and on the other end. So we have online toxicity has been a current occurrence in esports. How can sport for all organizations create positive digital cultures that align with inclusion values? while still maintaining engagement?
Thank you for the question. Yes, it's true. There is online toxicity in esports, but I think also in sports. So I don't think there is any exclusion from anywhere. From it's everywhere. So what we see in esports, the starting point of esports is gaming. This is really different than traditional sports. The starting point is sports. So both of these cultures have their values. So that's very important. So if I focus on the traditional sports organizations, they can also what you often see is the values. You can see them on the pitch, just like in the physical world. So if something happens there, it's important. Okay, we can all see it. But if something happens in the online world, do we have the same attention? So I think that's a very interesting challenge also for sport organizations to put the same values on the field as in the online world and to promote them. I've one interesting example. It's one of Ajax Amsterdam. Last year they had a campaign. It was to silence the social hate on social media. So there was the campaign, but also training programs, and I also used AI technology to keep the online communities clean of social hate, or try to keep it clean. It's pretty difficult, but that's on professional level. And I think also on a grassroots level, there are also a lot of opportunities for that to create a positive digital culture. So as a sports coach, you have your for example, football team on the pitch, but you also have a group chat. So how do we behave in the group chat? Can we make any arrangements? Can we make a code of conduct or something, and keep it in balance? So also on a professional level, but also on grassroots level, there are a lot of interesting challenges to put the same values, try to put the same values in both worlds.
Thank you. I think one thing you said is we have toxicity everywhere, so not just online, it happens in the physical, but yes, trying to ensure that we can effectively manage it in both worlds. Thank you for that, Dion. I think Fozzy want to also add something to that. Fozzy, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I want to add something very important to the communities in design. What we need to work on is that it is not a contradiction. Either you do effective sport or rehab, or you do gaming. And that is a misconception. It's really, really hard to break, especially like in Germany. You think, no, but if we want to prepare like elite athletes, or if we want to do effective rehabilitation, that gaming has no space in it. But this is just not true, because this is the special type of, as I said, motivation, engagement, immersion that can even be more intensive. And I just invite you to visit some to watch some videos of Janja Garnbret, which is the most successful rock climber ever from Slovenia, and she explicitly says she will just do training that is fun to her, because then she will do it extensively. And that is for every. So gaming is a motivation, is a way of steering your physical activity, and it's not a contradiction. It can be to bridge this can be a big help for all sides. That is, I think that's very important, that we need to work on that. That is two different cultures, but the synergy is not to have either, but that to take the best of both worlds.
Okay, thank you for that feedback or that response. The best of both worlds. And Fuzzy, still staying on you. The next question I have is, looking ahead, what emerging trends do you think sport for organizations should be preparing for, and how can they stay adaptable? This is going to be like a question for everybody, but let's start with Fuzzy.
Yeah, I mean, I've basically, because I talked so much already, I think, made this point that sport for all means bridge to gaming, to gamification, means a bridge to reach out to different target groups, and using the opportunity of like digitalization, gamification, and virtual platforms to bring people together from different communities, from different societies, and also from different abilities. So it has a cooperative nature, an inclusive nature, an integrative nature of physical physical activity that is possible, and that should be taken advantage of. And the challenge for innovators is to make it accessible and affordable and attractive at the same time. So we need to provide for the opportunities and create worlds which really sport for all, and not sport then for a few rich bastards. But there's opportunities, and we should grab them.
Thank you. Thank you. I think one thing you said, they should create, take advantage of it and make sure that it's affordable, accessible for everyone. Yeah, thank you for that. And Lucy, can you share your thoughts on that also?
For those of us who are interested in the role of technology and digital transformation, AI in sport for all, there are a lot of initiatives that are driving this forward. Not only, of course, this webinar, this working group with TAFISA, but also the broader Olympism 365 Innovation Hub. There's a Tech 365 funding strand that is incubating initiatives using emerging technologies in sport for sustainable development. There's a collective of 25 innovators that are innovating at the intersection of sports, technology, social impact. There's a manifesto there about the role of responsible technology adoption in sport for all. There's also the Discover AI section on the Sport and Dev platform. Sport and Dev is also a community that's driving responsible AI digital transformation. So I would say that if you're interested in this, then join conversations and learnings, and like even us already on our website, we have a free introductory course on AI in sport, and we also have one on blockchain, Web3 technology in sport as well. So there's increasing interest, there's increasing targeted resources that are relevant for sport for all out there, and there are increasing groups that are collaborating and having conversations about this topic. So I would definitely start connecting and contributing to these conversations. It's an exciting time, and I think society is transforming in front of our eyes, and we have to be part of it.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. Dion, before we move to Dion, we just got like a question that came in the Q&A box, and I think since we have a few minutes, we can quickly treat that. Lucy, directing this question to you. I think this person is saying, okay, based on the responses and some examples you have given in countries with lower income, or so what are your thoughts on the role of digital solutions? How can we effectively bridge these gaps?
Yeah, I think so. So for now, for organizations, I think we'll realize actually that we're using a lot of great solutions as organizations that are free, low cost, low subscription. So I think is a consolidation of what we're using as organizations, and tapping into all the extras that maybe we don't even realize, like within the different suites that we have, the Microsoft or the Google or whichever platforms we're already using as organizations. And these are low cost, and they help with an administrative communication, project management, and all of these different roles as organizations. There we don't have to overcomplicate things. So I think that for me is like the barrier to entry now is becoming a lot less, so that, you know, particularly for lower resource organizations and volunteer organizations, that's good news. And maybe my teammates can talk about, you know, when there are these dedicated tools like wearables and headsets and things like that, what the price point is for these as well. But that would be my response there.
Thank you so much for that response, Lucy. And now, Dion, to you as a closing question. So, what emerging trends do you think sport for organizations need to be preparing for, and how can they stay adaptable to these trends?
I think there are two. If I'm looking ahead, there are two developments I want to highlight. One of them is there are already a lot of technologies for physical activity and sports purposes. So, as I mentioned, one of the challenges is how to implement them. So I hope as Fozzy already said, it's hoping to be a bit cheaper, also better adaptable for practice, but also how to upgrade the skills of the digital skills of the professionals, how to use them. So I hope that's one development. It's continuing, hoping to be better. And the other one is Lucy mentioned it already a few times. It's the development of AI. So I think last week the European Commission shared a new paper about AI in sports. So there are also a lot of big chances for professional sports, but also for the grassroots level sports clubs who can help them organize their sport. For example, matchmaking for volunteers, or scheduling the dressing room or the pitches, or AI coaching, which helps the coach to create a training program for the players. These are a few examples which I think they will develop and continue the next few years.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Dion, for that response. I want to say a big thank you to all our panelists for your responses, your comments, your thoughts. Thank you so much. That's deeply appreciated. And now to back to our participants, we do have another interactive session. So we do have a few questions on Mentimeter that we want and we hope you can respond to. So if you still have your Mentimeter link, you can go ahead and just log back into Mentimeter. I will share my screen again. Okay. So the next question we have on Mentimeter is, what do you see as the biggest risk of integrating digital solutions in sports in communities and program? I think we talked about this a lot during the panel discussion. Okay. We see a lot leaning towards or more towards technical challenges. I think this is also linked to the capacity issue that we talked about, digital literacy capacity for staff. And our last question on Menti today is, how likely are you to recommend exploring technology in sport to other sport for organizations? We've talked a lot about the benefit and how should be encouraged. So how likely are you to recommend this? I see a lot of very likely and likely, so that's good. Okay. Okay. So thank you so much for your responses on Menti. We'll move to the next agenda we have on the program, which is the case study presentation. We'll go ahead and read the intro or introduce our case study presenter. We have Marc Sarens. Marc is a visionary in the field of VR sports with extensive experience in introducing innovative sports activities to the market. Over the past 6 years, he has served as a project leader and business developer in the non-profit sector, specializing in the development and implementation of new sports. In 2010, Marc founded Wacketball, an urban racket sports played in a secular court. Currently, Marc is the project coordinator of Vibes, an Erasmus project that explores the use of VR in physical education. Thanks so much for joining us today, Marc. And I think you can go ahead and share your screen.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. It was very interesting just to be here and to listen to all the interesting topics that was discussed. And I found it very interesting to see similarities with ideas that we also support. Let me share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So I have two case studies today to present to you. One is, as you said, Vibes. Vibes is about the exploration of integration of virtual reality in physical education in schools across 4 different countries in Europe, which is running at the moment. And the other one is the use of virtual reality for senior citizens, the age of 55, 60 to 65, which is also running at the moment, and which we have already done some interventions there, so which I would like to share with you. So over the last year, we've done interventions in Brussels where we introduced a population, or a total of 35 participants between the age of 55 and 65 to a 5-week 10-session program using VR. So this group of people is, I mean, not always as tech savvy as younger people, but it worked out quite nicely for them. There are, of course, many different games and apps you can play and you can try in virtual reality. And what we've chosen for this app, this Nils Body Combat, because for different reasons it's easy to use and it doesn't need necessarily always a Wi-Fi or internet network, which is not always available in all cases. What we found is that we had to use step-by-step guide to help them find their way in the VR world. So we used this type of screenshots, and we used an info session in the beginning to help people find their way in the VR world, and also in the so how to start the game, etc. And so we use this type of screenshots in the info session to help them find their way, as you can see here on the screen. So that's quite important. The intervention started with a warm up. Also important is that you have this social thing going on between the people. That was also very appreciated. So because when you're in the VR world, you're sort of more not in direct contact, social contact with other people in the physical world. You can be, of course, in the virtual world, but we found that the fact that we did this in group session was really appreciated by the participants. Here you can see a session of the VR boxing. People were allowed to use select their own intensity level. And you also get immediate feedback from your performance in VR, which was very appreciated. The level of competition, this type of group people out of this intervention wasn't very important. So in terms of motivation, the gamification was really important, but the actual competition was not so important for this specific group of people that we had. Of course, that could be different for younger people. Etc. So after the intervention, we let them answer questions, and the general result also to give tips to people who want to start using VR for this age group is these 8 tips. You have to be prepared yourself as a coach, so you have to know really well how the system works, how the hardware works, but also how the software works, and where to guide people where to go if they are stuck. You don't always have the possibility to cast your screen to a bigger screen where you can actually see what they see. That is possible, but it's not always the case. So the better that you know the app that you're using, the more helpful it is. So organize a pilot session if you start with a new group of people who have never done VR. An info session. Be patient, especially with the older people. Create social interaction. That's very appreciated. Be safe. VR, you're working in a VR environment or an XR environment, depending, but always make sure that you make it safe for the people that do it, and set realistic goals. So we did an intervention, and actually it's part of a scientific study. A paper will come out of it. I'll just show you a few results. We've done many inquiries, but a few results here is that the usability was measured on 3 different occasions, and it was always above the threshold of 68%. So 68 below 68, people find it not useful, but everything above 68% is useful. You can see there's a small dip, but it's always about 80 plus, which means that people that tried it VR out during the training sessions found it very useful. The perceived intensity was measured during this intervention. So we wanted to know, do they perceive it as being intense, yes or no? And they could then self-declare their intensity. And as you can see, in the 10 sessions, the perceived intensity is going up. So we let people choose their own level of intensity. So, but they actually challenged themselves. They were motivated to do more and more, which was very interesting to see. It also has to do with the fact that they become more capable of, more relaxed, more capable of trying different and challenging things, more difficult things. So we think that this is the reason for this this interesting upward curve in terms of intensity. We also, of course, measured the heart rate during this intensity, and you could also see that it follows this type of graph. And then the motivation session, Fozzy also talked about it, and some other people also, about the fact that being in a gamified world environment can be very motivating. There again, we have different age groups, and might be different for kids than for senior citizens or adults. But here we can see that the fact that the mastery, the fact that you are competent is very important to them, that motivates them. That it's that the physical activity motivates them as well to use this. And as I said before, the least important motivation for them is the competition and the ego, which is shown in the middle of the screen, somewhere the dip. So, but then again, as I said before, that could be different for younger population. A second case I would like to share with you is a very interesting thing. It's a very interesting one, is that we are running a program called Vibes. It's about introducing virtual reality sports interaction between European schools. So again, I think Fozzy talked about the fact that digital technology allow people to cross borders, with the example of people that are in conflict at the moment that can come together in a virtual world and do things together. It's the same principle here in this project. We've done. Let me just go back here. The idea came during COVID, where clubs were closed, people couldn't leave their houses, and then the idea, and also PE in schools was very difficult from behind the screen. So we were thinking, if we can create a tool or an environment where people can meet each other and be active together in VR, actually meet, talk of course, through avatars, that would be quite interesting. And also the fact that you could do it across borders, so you could do actually internationalization at home. So we started this program. This is running at the moment, and we've done quite well so far. We have these three main goals. First of all, we are creating a training package for physical education classes, and we are training the trainers. That's quite challenging sometimes, because a physical education teacher is not always in favor of digital tools and screen time, etc. So, but the fact that we are showing that you can actually be physically active, that your heart rate goes up, that you're socially interacting, but also motivating the students to be active with the digital tools, is coming across slowly. We are building, or we have built, an ebook that helps trainers and PE teachers to implement VR. So it's a course, a modular course that we put together, both in an ebook and in an e-platform, which is freely accessible for all, that is now ready and can be introduced to the PE teachers or to trainers from sports club, can also be very useful for them. So at the end of my presentation, I have this QR code that I invite you to scan, and that brings you to a form where you can fill out your details if you want to know more about it, if you want to be invited for a webinar about the topic, how to implement virtual reality in your training sessions, completely free, which will happen in October. So I'll invite you to do it at the end of my presentation. So that's the second one, is to create an e-platform, easily accessible for trainers to learn how to use the virtual reality. And then now we're at the stage after this training also, we're going to implement this in pilot testing across the 4 countries that we are operating in: Greece, Portugal, Italy, and Belgium. And at the end, we are going to have interscholastic tournaments between countries. That's the end goal. So basically, you're a student in Cyprus, you already practiced with VR a few sessions, and now you're going to compete and play a game of a type of padel tennis or table tennis or other sports against students from a different country at the same time. So you're like in this virtual world, interacting and playing sports with other people from across other countries. So this is a screenshot of our website. This is where the ebook is ready to use. You can just download it if you want. It explains and helps people how to use VR, going from pedagogical approaches to examples of games that are out there, which we found useful. But of course, these games, they are growing. There are a lot of new games and physical applications being built as we speak, let's say. So it's there, of course, necessary to stay up to date. But if you I invite you to scan this QR code, which brings you to the website where you can download all our materials. And then finally, if you would like to stay in touch with us through maybe following a webinar in the coming weeks where we explain more in detail about our work, about our e-platform, to help you implement this. It is very practical, it's actually how to use it, how to set it up, which games are useful, how do you organize tournaments, how do you, all the things are covered. We think, or at least a lot of things are covered into this course. So please, I invite you to join us in our quest to introduce digital technology in Sports Club. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marc, for that presentation. I think you can stop sharing your screen now.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. I'd share the link in the chat box. So if you want to access the training materials that Marc spoke about, you can find the link in the chat box. And Marc, we have a question for you here. I think probably you have not had time to read it yet, but I just highlight the question and maybe you can quickly respond to that. It said digital tools might be helpful for certain purposes, but the real potential is sport is in real life. Why should we bring pupils in digital environment together instead of doing this in real life?
Yeah, that's a good question. And of course, there's always pros and cons about using the digital technology. A con is we already are using our smartphones all the time. We are spending a lot of time on the screen. But there is a certain population of young people that are not really interested in being physically active. And they could help them to get carried away through the gamification of the activity and be physically active. One example I had is when last year I was doing a pre-pilot testing in international school, and the teacher came to me and said, "This girl doesn't like to participate in PE, and look at her now. She was sweating, she was active, she loved it." And for those people, it could be interesting to find the road to that physical activity is enjoyable and doesn't need to be, a burden. Another example is that you can create worlds where accommodation in real life is not accessible for people there, but you can participate in a simulated environment where it's simulation of the sports facility. Basically, you can start practicing rock climbing or maybe go play padel, which is maybe expensive, but you can do it in VR or get to know it in VR. Make it accessible for places where it's not always the case. I mean, the cost of it is another thing. It's getting cheaper and cheaper. You know, when I started in 2015 with VR, it was very expensive, it was bulky, a lot of sensors tethered, so with a wire. These days, for 250 euros, you can buy a completely one headset, which is completely self-standing. You don't need any extras. You don't need sensors. You don't need another game computer to run it. It's all one thing. So prices go down and quality goes up. And in the future, I'm sure it will be even more. So the prices go down, plus the fact that you can use these tools not just for physical education, but you could use it for biology, for other subjects in the school, for instance. That is also very useful. You have one tool for many things. So, okay, to answer your questions, why should we do it? I think it has a lot of benefits for a certain group of people to get motivated. But of course, I mean, open air, free nature, playing there is perfect. But this is an extra tool. It's not to replace this type of sports, but it's just adding on to it.
Thank you so much, Marc. And I think your last point is very important. We are not trying to replace, but we're just trying to add on, because we think that, or we believe and we know that there's still some population that have also not participating in physical activity. Thank you so much, Marc, for that. And now we've come to the end of today's webinar. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, for participating, our speakers, our panelists, and also to our audience for being a part of today's session. Before we close, I would like to announce that we have our next webinar coming up in October. I will just quickly share my screen so you see the slide we have for that. Yes, so we have our next webinar in October coming up, and let me get this done, yes. And the webinar is on the topic Shifting the Narrative, Data-Driven Approaches to Girls' Sports Participation. This webinar is scheduled for the 21st of October 2025. The registration link is not out yet, but it will be available, I think, next week, and we'll share that with you. So this is very important, and we hope that we can have you, or we look forward to welcoming you in that webinar also. And also at the end of this webinar, you will get an automated post-webinar survey, which will only take a minute to fill out. We want to encourage you to please fill out this survey. It's important for our webinar or our future webinars, and help us know and how to better structure the webinar, how to innovate better, and what we need to do differently. Finally, I want to thank our speakers, our panelists, and also we had a few cancellations this morning. Unfortunately, Joseph Kofnam from Multiball was supposed to be with us, and Ryochi, who is the CEO of Vrije from Japan, was also supposed to be with us, but unfortunately they could not join us. But we want to also thank them, and also our colleagues here, or my colleagues here at TAFISA, for their support, and most importantly, our audience today. Thank you so much for attending and for your active participation in our Mentimeter and also in the chat box. I want to wish you a great day, and we look forward to seeing you in our next webinar. Thank you.